Chapter 1. An injured lion still wants to roar. This is me. Pretty sweet, right? If I were to compare myself to one thing, I think I'd compare myself to an artist's lump of clay. I'd compare myself to this because a lump of clay can be molded into many things, whether it be a dog, a fish, or maybe even a really stud buff guy. I can relate to this because I adjust my personality to the people I hang out with. If they want someone who is more cool, then I try to act cool. But if they like someone who is positive, I act a little bit more positive. Much like how an artist has to think about what he's gonna make before he actually makes it, I think about how I'm gonna act in front of different groups of friends when I first meet them, so I can get a better understanding of what kind of person they like. My personality has many different forms, just like how clay can mold into many different forms as well. Each form is different and unique in its own way. Chapter 4. The Parent Lottery. In my life, I think my parents played a very big role in helping me form into the person I am today. My mom played a very big role in inspiring me to be as successful as she was when she was working at her job. My dad, on the other hand, played a big role in helping me see the world from different perspectives and really getting to understand the people inside this world. The things I've received from my parents really make me who I am today. Chapter 7. I never made it to the NFL. When I was younger, the biggest goal I ever wanted to accomplish in life was to become a world-famous artist, so that my art pieces can be featured in museums all across the world, and I would be recognized for my art. But that seemed a little unrealistic. As soon as I reached 7th grade, I started to realize something. There were a lot of artists that were a lot better than me, and this really lowered my confidence in my art. Eventually, I met a teacher who motivated me to work as hard as I could on my art, even if I wasn't the best. This gave me a little bit more confidence in my art and what I was doing, and eventually, I won 2 awards for an art piece that was entered in a show. Eventually, I was feeling really good about my art, and I didn't care what other people thought, or if other people were better than me. Chapter 11. The Happiest Place on Earth. People encounter brick walls in their lives that they either have to get over or be defeated by. One brick wall that I've encountered was having to read music at a high school level. I wasn't very skilled at my instrument, and I had failed a lot of tests in class, which was really stressing me out. I was tired of being stressed out, so I decided to practice as hard as I could for as long as I could, so I can overcome this brick wall that I've encountered. My work ended up paying off and I raised my test grades. And I even overcome the brick wall that I was fearing so much, and I felt great. Chapter 21. J. One person who was a big inspiration in my life was definitely my mother. She worked at a company called Hunter Wise, and she started off as a receptionist but worked her way up to becoming the company's president. She spent years working for this spot, and eventually her hard work paid off, which really inspired me to work just as hard as her. Chapter 24. A Recovering Jerk. Growing up, I always wanted to seem stronger than I really was, so I tried to show off my strength in many different ways. One way I tried to make myself seem stronger was by beating weaker kids up when I was in elementary school. I was quite the bully. I was also a really bad student in elementary school with terrible grades. At some point, a lot of my friends really started to dislike who I was becoming, which made me feel horrible inside. This made me realize I didn't want the strong image. Chapter 28. Dream Big. Growing up, my parents gave me a bunch of restrictions that I never really liked. like a puppet under my parents' control because it only seemed like they wanted me to be their perfect child and had every image for me set out. My parents always had these expectations for me and expected me to reach them, and if I didn't, they would be disappointed in who I was. I guess what I really wanted from my childhood was to find out who I really wanted to be instead of having these guidelines from my parents of what I should be. Chapter 53. Never Give Up. Last summer, I began lifting weights to boost my confidence and to see what physical activity I can get myself into, and I really enjoyed it when I started out. The problem was people put me down at the gym because they thought I was weak. This had a big impact on my self-esteem, and it made me not want to lift weights anymore because I felt like I was weak. But regardless of what they said, I pushed myself to continue lifting weights, and I eventually became stronger than ever, and I was feeling great again. Chapter 56. Tigger or Eeyore? Between Tigger or Eeyore, I think I would describe myself more as a Tigger because he's more enthusiastic, just like me. I prefer to be an optimist because looking at life through a positive perspective can really make it seem better than ever. Whenever something bad happens in my life, I prefer to look at the good side and see what's coming next. Chapter 61. The dreams will come to you. The greatest piece of advice I want to give to people is to do things for yourself instead of worrying about if you're doing them for other people. You should always try to do things for yourself because your life is your own and not anyone else's. So do things for your own. Just ignore what people say about you if you try to be yourself. Thanks for watching!